Lord, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be always acceptable to you, O God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. This morning, someone saw me heading into the church with this in my hand, with wide. I said, "That's not your sermon, is it?" So rest assured, this is not the sermon. I'm actually going to keep it rather brief today. And no, I know no matter how many tears you shed, you're not going to get me to lengthen it. I've got to keep it short, and I have a reason. You'll hear that in a bit. As you should know by now, we are in the midst of St. James' annual pledge drive, this period of time where we are all discerning prayerfully within ourselves what we think we're going to be able, what we hope to be able to contribute to the mission and ministries of St. James in the next year to come. And given that that is where we are, we have an amazing gospel reading today. An amazing gospel reading, amazing if nothing else in its ability to be corrupted and manipulated by the preacher. And I would say this is the parable of the talents. I have heard this is among the most of the misused and abused parables of Jesus, where people have used preachers, like up here in, not this pulpit surely, but other pulpits. Preachers have gotten up and preached a gospel message to you that Jesus is saying, the more you give, the more you will be blessed. It's what's known as the prosperity gospel. You don't want to find yourself not having pledged enough and be thrown into the outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, do you? And in fact, I could get up here as the preacher and say to you that God will judge you just like this evil master in this story judges him for merely giving back what he was given and not building upon it and given even more. But luckily for you, we have bishops to rein in conniving preachers like me. And I had the good benefit this weekend of being at diocesan convention, where I got to have a conversation with the Right Reverend Jacob Owensby, Bishop of Western Louisiana. He was our keynote speaker at convention this year. And in our conversations, he reminded me that a parable is not an allegory. That's important. So a parable is not an allegory, so I'm not going to take you and try to drop you into this story and try to say, which one of these slaves do you want to be in this story? That's not the point of Jesus' parable, but rather the point of a parable is to maybe startle us. This is a startling reading, isn't it? It's maybe to startle us, but to open our eyes to some fundamental reality in the midst of us that Jesus desperately wants to make sure we understand. And the message I hear in this one loud and clear is, don't be afraid. Don't look at what we have from a place of scarcity and fear and lack. And because that closes us off and cuts us off from community and leaves us where it's dark and where it's cold, because we shut ourselves off. But rather to come at it from a place of abundance and gratitude. Now, we just had our diocesan convention, and there's frequently an ongoing conversation that happens, and you hear two sides of the room in the church. And one side always comes at it from the approach of, there's not enough money, there's not enough people, there's not enough time, there's not enough. And it's anxiety producing, and it's coming from a place of fear. And that fear closes us off and limits who we can be and what we can do. But fortunately, there's always a few people in the room saying, no, look around. Look at how lucky we are to have each other. Look at how lucky we are to have everything at our disposal, and we can dream together of what we can do with this. And it's coming from a place of abundance and gratitude. Now, Jesus was no fool. He knew the crowd of people he was talking to. He knew he was talking to a group of people that knew what it was like to do without and to live in a place of fear and scarcity. He knew the history of exile, of slavery, of the people. He knew the history of them currently being under Roman occupation in an empire. He knew these people knew what it was like. So many of them, fishermen and farmers, knew what it was like to live from a place of scarcity. And he was encouraging them that even in the midst of that, don't let that fear of scarcity define how you will behave in this world. Come at it from a place of abundance. How easy would it have been for the third servant in this story to have taken a page from the widow's mite, the story of the widow's mite with her 2 small copper coins, knowing that if she had taken those 2 coins and clutched them desperately out of fear of scarcity and held them tight to protect them, to not lose them, they always would have been limited to being just 2 small copper coins. And she would have been cutting herself off from everyone else or anything that could happen with it. But instead, she looked at those 2 coins and from a place of abundance and gratitude was willing to give them and say, let's see what can come of this if we do this together. She contributed them to the greater work of the community, and she was a part of something that made a difference in this world. Now, I know this is easier said than done, and I know I certainly have fallen victim myself to coming at things from a place of scarcity and fear. I'm well aware that every dollar that I contribute to a worthy cause is one less dollar that I have to feed my children. I'm well aware. I'm well aware that there's been times in my life where I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it to the next paycheck, and I was afraid. And I had times where I let that fear dictate the kind of person that I was, and it cut me off from friends and family and community. But thank God for the church. But thank God for the church in encouraging me to have a heart of abundance and gratitude so that I could look at what I had, whether it was a lot or whether it was a little. And sometimes it was a lot, and sometimes it was a little. But to look at what I had from a place of abundance and gratitude and to know that I can be a part of making a difference in this world. As this parable reminds us, don't let fear of scarcity control who you will be. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that. I said I'm keeping it short, and I meant it, and it's for my ulterior motive. My ulterior motive is I hope to get us out of here a little bit on the early side today so that you have no excuse but to come and observe our banner over here. We have this banner that's been growing. You've been hearing about it. And each one of those shells that's on there has been a different person who's given to the mission and ministries of St. James. And each one of those is a little story about what somebody is grateful for, what this community means to them, what they give to it to make it St. James. And so I want to get us out nice and early so you have no excuse. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for next week. Today is the day to go. Take a look at what's written on some of those little shells. If you haven't had the chance to fill yours out, now is the time to fill it out. Don't wait. Put it on there and say, this is why I'm a part of this here. This is our outward and visible sign of being a people who aren't afraid of the future that's to come, but we are thankful for the abundance and blessings that we have here. Thanks be to God. Amen.
We believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty.